Welcome everyone to virtual episode 9, right here on location. We are the guests this week here at Monument City. I'm here with Ken, one of the owners of Monument City, along with Dave, our head brewer. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you?
Doing well.
Well, thanks
good.
Thanks for visiting and having us on your show.
Oh man, thank you so much for being with us today. We're going to try 6 brand new beers. This is our Black Friday edition. Some high octane, darker beers, and a couple other ones to kind of cleanse the palate, and so that we don't have to use that cot we were just talking about in the back with the lights off later on. So I usually like to start with the very top. The very top is going to be your Anchorage Brewing Company. It's going to be a dark sour. Salute, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Cheers.
It smells fantastic.
Yeah.
So Ken, I was doing a little bit of reading, and you and your brother Matt went on a transcendental walk through the Appalachian Trail, and then you're like, at the end, you're like, kind of think we want to do this brewery thing. Can you essentially walk me through what happened?
I like that.
Yeah, see
Good
what
segue. Yeah, so it really goes back almost 20 years. So Matt and I are from Florida, but I moved up here about 20 years ago for work and started drinking at this lovely place called Brewer's Art, which I know we all are very familiar with.
Baltimore institution?
Yeah, you know, beautiful beer, beautiful people, and just fell in love with kind of this idea of making this, making beer, it being 15 feet from where you're enjoying it, and so started home brewing, got Matt involved, really before Matt was legally allowed to drink. So we got into home brewing, and then it was an idea we had been kicking around since 2008, 2009, and every year we would spend 10 days or so just hiking along the AT. Matt was overseas in the Middle East doing some contract work, and when he came back, we went on our hike and said, you know what, we don't really dig our current jobs, let's see if we can give this a go. So that was really kind of the start of it, 20 years ago at Brewer's Art, and then a lot of dreaming about it. And so from 2008 to 2014, it was a lot of dreaming and planning. So.
Essentially the Busta Rhymes of like, don't talk about it, be about it, kind of, let's stop talking about it and just start being about it.
It took us probably a little longer to stop talking about it than maybe Mr. Rhymes did, but
got it. And this leads us to our current, current setup. We are German inspired. Can you explain to like maybe the novice that doesn't understand essentially? I think German inspired. There's no on the windows. There's no flags with checkers or long tables or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really that's the brewing that we were taught, as we started learning how to brew commercially, and primarily, Matt spent most of his time brewing with a gentleman named Ernie that, was trained in Germany and had 30 years, of brewing experience, and really that's kind of the process that we learned was more of a traditional. Now we don't do, decoction or double decoction here, but that was really kind of our process. So if you look at our system, obviously, it's a German brew house, but really set up for, long lauters. So we have an oversized lauter tun where we can do up to 28 Plato or 24 Plato beers into that. So that's really kind of, the inspiration for setting up our brew house, and kind of where we started and how we started, kind of our brewing knowledge.
Got it. Dave, you took the head brewing job. Essentially, when you walked into that situation, what were your first thoughts? You're like, I think I'm on board with how traditional it is, or, this is a good starting point for a brewer at your age.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I've been working in the industry for 4 years by the time I joined these guys, and I really liked their beers, specifically the Pilsner. That was my favorite.
Sure.
So, German style beer with a little mix of some Czech style Pilsner in there. But
it's about as far as like beer styles go, that's about as cornerstone as it gets, as far as like just like foundational. Like,
Yeah. So
I always feel like, and lagers in general for me are just kind of super underrated, but they're the cornerstone of any particular consistently brewed beer.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think Baltimore has, Maryland as a whole, but Baltimore has some fantastic breweries, and a lot of them make some really clean, nice lager beers, and so every brewery I think evolves as they kind of go through their life cycle, and we have as well. We still have a core beer lineup with 51 Rye, Pilsner,
Sure.
And our brown ale is now a seasonal beer, and then we have a pale ale throughout the year. But we continue to kind of evolve, and as a brewery we do a lot of IPAs, and a lot of lager beers.
Sure.
And then as the winter months come, you'll start to see some either darker lagers, or we do quite a few stouts as well. So, but I think we tend to lean. Traditional is not 100% the right word, but we tend to lean kind of more heavy on the traditional styles,
right,
and then add our little bit.
Lack of a better adjective, safer, just like already well established with a track record, kind of.
Yeah, even safe may be tough, because to do them really well is it takes a lot of work. We always, any brewery I go to, the first beer I try is their lightest lager, Pilsner.
I'd say it's more
Something
of like,
more sessionable.
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Like,
Yep.
there's 90% of the time when I'm grabbing a beer, it's something that I like to drink a lot of beer. So something I can drink 5 of. It's definitely not a 10% imperial stout.
Right.
I do appreciate those beers, but
Right. You can't bang them down in the summertime,
Yep.
Next to the pool,
Yeah.
without being out of commission for at least some point. I've since moved on to the Black Ops, which honestly, which is the exact opposite of what we were just talking about as far as sessionable goes. But
Yeah.
this is actually one of my favorite beers. I worked at a place called One Eye Mike's, super way back in the day, and then the staff and I would always we'd split a case of Black Ops every year. So we would get it every year, divvy up the bottles, and just the mystery around this beer is just been one of my favorites. They like to say that this beer doesn't exist, so they brew it, bottle it completely flat, and then re-ferment with champagne yeast to give it that natural fermentation, and it's fantastic. It's aged in bourbon barrels. I believe this year was aged in Four Roses bourbon barrels. It was really good. The 14 is what we're drinking right now, and it's
that's
dangerous,
delicious.
Pretty
dangerous,
good.
man.
Yeah.
It is.
11, almost 11.5%.
Yeah, it goes down nice and smooth.
I think it's a great segue into, we were just talking about like your current offerings and what you started with. We have a spectrum of things that we're drinking right now and what you're brewing and offering right now in the Taphouse. We started with essentially like your more traditional, your Pension Pills, your Folk Fest is your Oktoberfest beer, but then it's given way to Sobo and Nobo, which are both IPAs that are super well received, that I always love drinking. How do we decide, we might have touched on it a little bit before, how do we decide on what to brew next and when, and what's the thought process as far as just being like sitting down on a day off over beers, just being like,
A lot of guessing.
Yeah,
I think we guess.
sure,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it, having year-round kind of core beers, which, during, this challenging time has been really a benefit for us.
Sure.
So making sure that we have the right amount of inventory of those beers. So like 51 Rye, we always had, prior to COVID, we had a tank for cans and a tank for draft, always full.
Right.
So when that tank would empty, fill it right back up.
Sure.
And so that that was easy planning. Now with draft being so sparse, it takes a little more forethought. So we look at some run rates on things, but for the most part, when we get beyond our core, it just is really kind of what we're feeling, and then what new beers we want to bring to market.
Sure.
So, this month we had, like 5 new beers that we did.
Something like that,
leading
yeah.
up to, the holidays and then into December. So,
Right.
some of it is what we need to send out to market. Some of it is
Perhaps we'll throw a global pandemic in there, just kind
That's
of
right,
whip it around,
yeah.
see what happens, and
and then I think some of it is what what do we think would be a fantastic beer for this season. So
sure.
I think we have we put in a couple Belgians, which was kind of cool. So we did a walk through Brussels, which
Oh,
we
yeah.
have right there.
This is, man, it starts off a little sweet and finishes super dry, like super thirst quench, and I really enjoy it.
It's
Yep.
a fantastic beer, and then we took the second runnings of that, and Dave did a table beer dry hop with
Oh,
Mosaic.
nice. Okay.
So we'll send you home with some of that.
Ah, fantastic,
It's over
fantastic.
there, but it's so we decided to do something a little different there.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and then I think we have a couple lagers in that we don't normally do right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So we have a Keller Pills that was
Yep.
aging for a minute, and then
Yeah, so we did a double dry hopped Keller Pills. We have a beer that we're doing with Manor Hill. And I saw
Doppelbock.
Manor Hill Greg.
yeah,
yeah.
he frequents quite a bit.
Yeah, fantastic
Yeah.
human being. And so we did a Doppelbock with that crew. And then we have a smoked lager, Rauch
The Rauch,
beer.
yeah, sure.
So
Excellent, man. I've changed palettes a little bit and moved over to the Vitamin C. Super stoked. I'm super stoked personally about this one because Aslin in the tri-state area, I think Aslin's one of my more favorite beers outside of the state of Maryland. And they're just crushing. Vitamin C, unless you have a minute, because they don't distribute. You can't drive up there and enjoy, but now finally they did a collaboration with Aslin that's available down here. That Floor Guy is fantastic. I think the new hotness is these double IPAs that drink like orange juice essentially, that are just like super palatable, very drinkable. Just don't feel like they're boozy at all. Guys, your thoughts? How do you feel about how everything tastes?
I mean, all the beers have been fantastic. Yeah, as far as kind of moving to the hazy, juicy New England style, whatever category you want to put it in. Yeah, I think they're really approachable, especially as you start to bring more and more people into craft beer and beer in general. They're really easy drinking styles.
Yep.
I remember when however many IBUs you had was
Yeah.
whoever could get the highest IBUs,
Yeah.
that was the best beer
Right.
around. So it's definitely shifted to, I would say, drinkability.
Right.
So
Oh, and let's not forget, maybe even 15 years ago, the darker the beer, the higher the alcohol, which is a complete like wives' tale.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
no, Guinness is like 5%, like 4.5%, 5%.
And low calorie.
Yeah, and low calorie,
yeah.
and great for pregnant women apparently. But I don't know. But for us to taste beers and just even back in the day, Brewer's Art Resurrection was at 7%. You're like, oh my god, 7%.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's dark, and it's like, oh man, but it's delicious. It's sweet, and it's just like,
yeah, also would catch up on you.
oh yeah, it would also just be like, you drink 4 or 5 of them, you're like, you're fine, and you're in that rat skeller of a bar downstairs. You're like, you're talking to your date, and then you get up to go to the bathroom. You're like,
Oh.
Jesus, whoo, yeah. But it's good to see Vitamin C down here, and through the magic of distribution and just, in all honesty, something like a global pandemic. Beers what brings us together, and it's definitely things that are being offered now that haven't been offered before and are available now, and I really enjoy it. Like, this is like candy to me. It's really good.
And I think to your point, that's what one of the things we love about craft beer or the industry as a whole is there's so many options to fit everyone's palate, right? Because everyone's
Sure.
palate's a bit different. So I think think that's what's fun, especially being in Maryland when we all have kind of our own little niche, right? So we focus on what we really enjoy and what we're really good at, and then there's breweries down the road that are doing things differently that are fantastic. So we all have our own little path that we go down, which is fun.
It's a labor of love. I feel like it's a very like blue collar, like grounding, humbling experience. Like, this is the fruit of our labor. I'd like for my peer to try it and without judgment.
And it's really, at least to me, and maybe I'm romanticizing it a bit, but it's really an art to be able to conceptualize how these 4 ingredients come together, these 4 components come together to create this, or and it's in our team, when we first started, Matt and I did all the brewing. When Dave came, Dave did all the brewing.
Right.
So
I had a Sunday off.
You can't get Dave to take a day off, but they put a lot, and not just our team, but that's the experience I have. But everyone puts so much thought and energy into making the best product they can, and it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of thought that goes into it, which to me is a really fun thing to see, and a fun thing to be a part of.
Right. There has to be something to be said that you open up your own brewery, you have a tap room, very successful, a ton of beers in the fridge right now that I'm looking at, and on your day off, perhaps you're like kind of lingering behind the bar, and you're just like, to the average person that cracks open a beer, you're like, you're kind of waiting for sometimes, like you did too, David, and you're just like, what do you think?
Yeah. What do you think?
Did we get it? Did we do it? Did we nail it? So that's the best feeling in the world, honestly. Well, let's completely switch gears now. We've all been in a handful of different brewery visits, and on days off, we've gone to places to drink and try new beers. We were just talking off air about travels to Cincinnati and places, up north in Portland, Maine, especially one of the beer meccas of the East Coast for sure. I've been in enough places personally where I've experienced a different vibe every time you walk in. And to make it more clear, I went to visit a friend of mine who lives in Boston. And I was fortunate enough to go to Trillium when we lived a couple miles away, to the Fort Portland location as well as the Canton location. So one day we walked into the Canton location. We got a Tribe Called Quest going on. A lot of digital underground, 90s, 2000s hip hop, rap. See what's going on, just like super vibing. We're eating pizza. We're drinking milk from the cow. We're enjoying meat from the butcher. It doesn't get any better than that. The next day we go to the same exact location, Pantera, Slayer. I've learned the music is an integral part in the daily life of the brewery and in pop culture. What are your thoughts on the vibes here every day? Like, I walk in and like today we had a little Dave Bowie, we had a little Bob Marley. How does it get you through?
Ken likes to play a lot of bluegrass.
Yeah.
Most of the
Bluegrass,
time.
right?
Yeah. Well, so we're all different. I think music, even outside of craft beer, I think music is quite a personal experience for a lot of people. That means different things to them. In my family, my wife is a professional musician, and that's how she made her living. So we have 2 boys. They're always playing the piano. We always have a guitar going.
Oh, wow.
So I think music is important, not just in a work environment, but outside of that as well. Here, we all actually have quite different taste in music. Some overlap here and
Palatable.
there. Yeah. So, I am.
How long can I get away with this without them being like, all right, dude?
Yeah. And usually, if something's not playing, whoever
2
gets
Chainz?
to it first. But bluegrass, I tend to, Billy Strings or Joe Pug, which is more Americana, folky. So folky bluegrass is kind of my world. Dave is a little bit of everything, but
I lean more into like punk music, like the
Sure.
Minutemen, Dead Kennedys, stuff
Dead
like
Kennedys,
that.
yep.
And a lot of older stuff too, like
Sure.
Talking Heads and television. But
Dave's assistant, Nighthawk, which you'll see, and we apologize for some of the extra noise, but we're
We're a production
making beer
facility.
today. We're making beer today. Nighthawk, what is it? More.
He likes house music. That's
Yeah. So if he gets to the music first, then
yeah.
That's
It's
whoever gets here first.
Whoever gets to the,
We try to keep it somewhat neutral
Right.
for the most part.
I think Dave said to me one morning, "Ken, there's music other than bluegrass." I said, "That is
I don't
true.
dislike
That
bluegrass.
is true." Yeah,
There's a time and place, I think.
Yeah, and
Obviously.
sometimes
Bluegrass is like summertime, like just
Yeah.
Pilsner in the sun, kind of.
yeah.
Other
right.
times you just want to kind of like do a little Gucci Mane and
Yeah.
like 2 Chainz or something like that, and drink some double IPAs and such.
Yeah.
So I've moved on to basically dessert in a glass. The Mackinac Fudge 2020, the Founders is offering this year. Speaking of candy, that is like drinking a candy bar right there.
Oh yeah.
That's delicious.
But now we have the Melody Caravan that you showed me the other day. So the reason why I asked the whole thing about music is we were looking at a stage to our right that we can't see right now, but obviously breweries have they have a stereotype. I feel like sometimes it's either old school hip hop or like Slayer, like Metallica, this and that, and then it's like, if you have a tap room, it's like Friends trivia, bingo, and then like two other like, cookie cutter activities per week, or food truck outside, this and that. But the vibe here is very like audio centric, like just kind of music brings us together kind of thing. Let's talk about the Melody Caravan and what's going on right now.
Yeah, so Melody Caravan is, there's a couple pieces to it, but it's a new. Oh, that's
your
my
wallet.
wallet. That's okay. We can cut.
That's like a Stanza wallet, by the way. I'm just looking.
Yeah, it's got a lot of
Receipts in
receipts that fell out.
Get a tax write-off on that?
I hope. So Melody Caravan is a new IPA that Dave and his team created. A hazy IPA, just a really easy drinking, 6.2 or 6% IPA, but it aligned with our new kind of Mobile Monument. Mobile Monument, which you can't see, but it's out the door back that way, is when COVID hit, we took on a couple larger projects, things that we hadn't been able to get to. So Mobile Monument is really kind of a mobile bar / music stage that we will start bringing when they come back to festivals and things of that nature. But it allows us to get into the market, share our beers a little bit, share some music, do some things a little differently,
Sure.
Away from the tap room. So it will make its debut out in Baltimore County in December. So we're going to be at an event out in Baltimore County at a farm. So we're excited to bring it out there.
Very cool. So, guys' night out, no pandemic, no kids, no girlfriends, no wives. What are we drinking?
Ooh, man.
Oh, and we got the day off the next day.
Oof.
I don't know. Several
Probably gonna.
Pilsners, bunch
Yeah,
of
probably
Pilsners.
6 or 7 pilsners.
Yeah, like
listen
it.
to some music,
I don't know.
sit in
Sip
my
on a little
chair.
whiskey. Yeah,
Sometime
yeah.
I'll.
Not
Are we
leaving.
going out? Are we doing in-house party or?
I think, me personally, and again, I'm significantly older than Dave here. I think I'm sitting at home in my chair, listening to some records, drinking beer.
No friends.
No.
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 I'd probably have some friends over, sit around the fire,
Fire's essential
some,
with beer, I
some
think.
Pilsner and maybe a little side of whiskey.
A little whiskey, yeah.
Some Old Line.
Little brown juice to sip on.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Old Line, sponsor of
Line.
our hand sanitizer.
Sanitizes, but also quenches. Let's take this Lone Pine, first time offered here in Baltimore, on a traveling tour and see what we're working with.
So we are in production, so there's a lot of stuff going on, but this is where the process starts. That's the brew house, so 3 vessels, mash tun down on the right, lauter tun in the middle, and kettle whirlpool on the end. So that's where the grain goes. That's separate the grain from the liquid, and that's where the hops go. After that, it heads into a fermenter. We have 9 of those here, 4 different sizes. 20 barrels, 40 barrels, 60 barrels, and 80 barrels. It resides in there from anywhere from 3 weeks to 45 days, and then heads to a bright tank, which is one of these with the flatter bottom. After that, it comes down here to packaging. This is our canning line here. We have Mike working in the background. He just finished up. We either go in cans or kegs, mostly cans right now.
See, we just canned Nopo today. Mike over there, our packaging lead, is just finishing things up. You guys have been to many breweries, so I mean, you know the deal. I think what's maybe a little different about maybe our setup than some others is our mash tun is jacketed, so it does allow us to raise the temperature through our mash. So Dave creates mash schedules where we come in at one temperature and start to raise it over time.
Sure.
And that varies by what beer he's doing and what Dave's trying to get from the beer. If he wants bigger body, a little lighter body, etc. Our lauter tun is, I think I mentioned this earlier, but it is oversized, so we can do higher gravity beers without adding in additional sugar. So
right.
We can just maximize what our efficiency or what we pull from the grain, and then bring that over into the boil and whirlpool. So we kind of, that last vessel, doubles as both. Eventually we'll probably add a 4th vessel, allows Dave and his team to get something out of that tank quicker, and we can
speed up those double brew days,
triple
brew days.
Yeah.
Cut a couple hours off.
Yeah.
Just helps the flow of getting it from the fermenting tank to the bright tank, and then just kind of starting all over again. And,
Yep.
And when we started, my brother and I, we just had this. And so what you see just on this pad, we didn't have the back pad yet with, the additional 80s, 20s, and the additional brights. We were here, we didn't have our own canning line. We used mobile canning to come in. I think our first month we did 500 cases, and then by month 3 we were doing like 3,500 cases.
Right.
So that was really expensive to use mobile canning.
Sure.
So we scratched up what little bit of money we had and got our own canning line. So,
which is like a graduation for any small brewery. I've good friends with quite a few different local breweries that are just like, man, this contract canning is the worst, because it before the beer even leaves the door, it's a couple $1,000 operation, and then when you can actually do that in-house without calling anybody else and doing it yourself.
yeah,
It's a great way to get your product out there and get some exposure, but
Right, and
you do it enough, it really helps justify the cost of buying your own
Yeah,
canning
Sure,
line.
it'll pay for itself probably, hopefully, in
Pretty
the first 2
quickly,
years
I
or so,
think.
yeah.
Oh yeah, for us it was like 8 months. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome.
Dave's right. Mobile canning for a new brewery, great to get your product out there. Horrendous for
longevity.
returns.
Yeah, yeah.
And but we learned a lot of things. So we went with most breweries in the area that are our size, and probably even beyond. The Wild Goose 250.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Our friends over at Union have one. And Pink, who runs it there, has been a big help to us. Friends right up the road at Oliver's.
Yep.
Those guys are beautiful people also, and helped us a lot. So selfishly, we got a machine that we knew people that if ours broke or if we needed troubleshooting, we had some really smart people.
Can I borrow a
around
cup
us.
of sugar, please?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And we've done that many times.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's helpful. For our size, it's fine. It's funny, we took a trip to Allagash, and we were walking through their beautiful brewery, and in the side, we saw a Goose 250 with our same small little labeler hooked up.
That was before they installed their $5 million canning line
Yeah.
there.
That
or
now they
whatever.
can do
And you're
instead
just
of
like, respect.
yeah, instead of I think we can do somewhere around 40-ish on a good day, a minute.
Cans.
They're now 1,400 or something, or whatever the number
Some
is.
crazy number.
That's
it's different.
insane.
They can package a lot of beer very quickly.
Yeah. But we're happy, with what we can, our 40
Sure.
cans a minute.
It's a humbling,
Yeah.
humbling start, humbling, present, and then we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. And if you can, it sounds like if you guys can grow, you'll take advantage. If not, then you'll hold the speed.
Yeah, and we're, I don't know if you want to call it lazy or not, but we have a certain volume we want to get to, and it's not much beyond where we are now. And we have some other projects as a brewery that we're really excited about that we're not, aiming to be 30,000 barrels
Right,
a year.
right.
We have a number. When we get there, we'll be really happy to maintain, and do some other projects that we've been really working towards. So
Right.
we have no desire to be 100,000, 30,000 barrel
I
brewery.
think those days are kind of past for
Sure.
breweries just
Sure.
opening.
Yeah, I mean there's so much fantastic beer out there, and it's it's great to see, but it also allows you to really be focused on what you do well and be realistic.
Kind of hone in
right.
on your craft.
That's
yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So,
Which leads me to the obligatory reinvention question of a global pandemic. What does that have? So perhaps you had that philosophy before even a global pandemic happened, but now we have closed down tap rooms, restaurants, bars. How are you guys adapting to production-wise and service-wise? What does that mean for you guys in the future?
yeah, I mean I think we always had a philosophy that we followed. I think there's nothing, I wouldn't say positive that comes out of the pandemic, but for us it allowed us to just refocus on that and just make sure we were following kind of our path, and not straying from it. So I think one thing it allowed us to focus. The other thing is it allowed us to get prepared for when we can get a bit back to normal. We made a lot of changes to our space. We really want to make sure we provide a positive experience. So when people come and celebrate beer and community here, we give them a good inside and outside space to do that. The mobile monument or the Melody Caravan we talked about allows us to get kind of beyond our tap room walls and kind of reach markets maybe we don't get to that much.
Sure.
And then we've launched kind of our new online store, the Trading Post, so it allows us to kind of expand some of the
The brand.
the brand in
Yeah.
different ways. So for us, it's been challenging. Not just from a business perspective, 50% of our volume was in draft beer.
Not anymore.
Max
Not so much.
doing
Yeah.
2 to 3 half kegs of
Pilsner.
penchant Pilsner a week.
Yeah.
So those are tough things to lose. But
That was a year-round beer that we carried
Yeah.
at Max's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we were lucky to keep our full-time
Sure.
team here. Everyone continued to work really, really hard, and it's been tough. But I think for me, I've been really proud of the team, and I'm always proud of the beers we produce. But I've really been proud of how everyone's kind of stepped up in a challenging time. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Let's move into the last beer of the day. We have saved the best for last. Here we go. So now we toured Monument City. Last beer of the day. What are we drinking, Dave?
This is 2019 barrel-aged Woodstove. So we brewed this beer in 2018, put it in some Sagamore rye whiskey barrels, and packaged it 2019. And now we're a year later, and it's tasting great, smelling great.
Super smooth, just smells like a candy bar. Very good.
Yeah.
Decided to taste it in front of our next release of barrel-aged Woodstove. So to be determined when that is.
Yeah, we still have a little bit to go, but yeah, we're excited about it. We do it every year, the barrel-aged Woodstove now. What's really cool is Sagamore actually took our 2019 barrels back and put some whiskey to finish in those. And so our understanding is they're really enjoying what it's been, what they've come up with. But it's been a year since it's been back in those barrels, so I think we're going to try that in the next
So
week or two.
perhaps a beer-aged whiskey.
That's right.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're stoked about that. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I really love this beer. But yeah, the barrels, you just get so much vanilla, so much, almost like dark fruit.
Really, really no IBUs. Just maybe a little bit of dark fruit, like a little prune, a little just like raisin. Just no bitterness whatsoever. Just super smooth. And I'm sure the depth will change once it gets a little bit warmer too.
Yep.
Just super enjoyable.
Yeah, no, we're really happy with this, and we're excited to. Don't think it'll be this year, but maybe next year pull these out and do it all again. So we actually blend their 95% rye and their 52% rye. So we blend those together, and that's what this is. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And before we go, I do want to thank you guys for my soccer ball. So Scooter and I are Manchester United fans, and for those of you who follow soccer, I think this is the only club out there. And you can see
United till I die.
That's right. You can see it on Scooter's hat there. So this is signed by the team at Max's, so thank you guys. We appreciate this.
My pleasure.
Put this up here in the brewery, so thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much for having us in your home. We've tried some dope beers. We're going to try them off camera here and finish them off. If you'd like to re-up on anything that was offered today, please visit shop.maxis.com. Please remember to follow so many different great people. Monument City Brewing, at Beer Tender, Max's, and Humble Beer Society. And as always, drink dope beer and say thank you.